Nonetheless, Gino talked about Caitlin Clark again and sort of gave some backhanded compliments. Like, he talked about how she connects to the audience, which was good. He talked about how she's tough, like Paige Beckers. He threw Paige in there.
Gino Auriemma couldn't help but bring up Caitlin Clark again, though this time, his comments were anything but straightforward praise. What came out was a puzzling blend of flattery and subtle digs that left many fans scratching their heads. He started by acknowledging her unmatched connection with audiences, but quickly shifted gears by mentioning Paige Beckers, as if to subtly reassert his authority over the narrative. Here's where it gets interesting. This is the same Gino who once dismissed Clark, suggesting she lacked the tools to truly dominate. Fast forward, and she's transformed Iowa into a national powerhouse, while Gino watches from the sidelines, down millions, losing influence, and witnessing a new chapter of history being written without him. At this point, every veiled critique he throws only highlights the truth. Caitlin Clark isn't just changing the game, she's taking up permanent space in Gino's mind. And it's clearly bothering him.
Going out of his way to, first he's like saying she connects to people, and he could have left it at that, I guess. But he almost goes on to put the, reverse some of that discourse, try to put it in others' laps because of Caitlin Clark.
After passing on Caitlin Clark, Gino Auriemma, the legendary Yukon coach known for dominating the recruiting scene, now seems like someone trying to rework his legacy. Once skeptical of Clark's fit for the WNBA, Auriemma watched from the sidelines as she turned Iowa into a national sensation. She filled arenas, shattered viewership records, and changed the narrative around women's basketball entirely. The result? Auriemma is left not only with a tinge of regret, but with tangible setbacks. Missed financial opportunities, diminished respect, and the loss of any association with the most commercially influential player of her generation. Instead of owning up to the miscalculation, he's appeared on podcasts offering lukewarm praise laced with subtle criticisms, framing the story as part of some larger strategy. But fans aren't buying it. To them, it's clear. He underestimated a generational talent, and now he's dealing with the fallout. Interview
kid, she's fearless. She just plays. She just is like a little kid in a driveway playing with her friends. Yeah, she's unique in that way. But in terms of what she's doing, people have short memories. Yeah.
Auriemma didn't back down during a recent podcast appearance. Instead, he doubled down, tossing out veiled criticisms that came off more like cheap shots than thoughtful commentary. He started by stating the obvious, that Caitlin Clark resonates with fans. Then, almost immediately, he took aim at her on-court swagger, framing her competitive edge as a liability rather than what it truly is, a core part of her appeal. Rather than simply acknowledging her impact, Auriemma reframed the narrative, suggesting that any tension Clark faces from WNBA players is something she brought on herself. That framing conveniently ignores the truth. Her confidence and fire are what set her apart as a once-in-a-generation athlete. And here's the irony. While Auriemma tries to shape the story in his favor, Clark just keeps doing what she does best, breaking records, redefining the game, and proving every one of his doubts wrong, on the biggest stage, in real time, with the whole basketball world watching.
Here's the beginning of the conversation.
The women's game. So I think sometimes people get confused over the last 18 months, maybe over the 2 years, that they think it was a rocket, that you all jumped on Caitlin Clark's back and went straight up. But you've been there at the beginning of the ride.
Real twist? Caitlin Clark isn't just stacking wins. She's reshaping the sport while occupying a permanent space in Gino Auriemma's mind. Every time he tries to minimize her impact, she answers by rewriting the record books, silencing critics with performance, not words. And the consequences for Auriemma go far beyond losing out on a recruit. His misjudgment likely cost him millions in revenue, from ticket sales to media exposure, and perhaps even more in brand prestige. What could have been the crown jewel of his coaching resume has instead become a glaring what-if, a symbol of the moment he misread the future. Now, while Clark turns Iowa into a national force and continues to elevate women's basketball, Auriemma's once unquestioned legacy takes repeated blows. Fans are starting to see past the accolades, questioning whether his lingering bitterness is eclipsing the wisdom he was once celebrated for. Because at the end of the day, it's clear, he didn't just overlook a star, he missed the very future of the game.
Up to the WNBA, and then they have something good to work with, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. So it still comes back to Those of us that are in charge of the game, are we making the game better every day?
When pushed further, Gino Auriemma tried to soften his stance, calling Caitlin Clark fearless and likening her to a kid shooting hoops in the driveway, just having fun. But even that felt like a subtle dig. Instead of fully acknowledging her unique mentality, he quickly shifted the spotlight back to himself, reminding everyone that he's witnessed greatness before, as if to downplay Clark's impact by suggesting it's nothing new. But the reality is different. While many players second-guess themselves under pressure, Clark welcomes it. She doesn't shy away from the moment, she owns it. That ability to rise under the brightest lights, to thrive where others freeze, is exactly what puts her in a class of her own. Still, Auriemma stopped short of giving her full credit. And maybe that's because doing so would require admitting something he's not ready to say out loud, that the player he once overlooked has become the defining figure of the sport he helped shape.
Gino Auriemma could be the reason why Caitlin Clark is definitely not joining the unrivaled 3-on-3 basketball league. We finna unpack it all.
Gino couldn't resist bringing Paige Butcher into the conversation, dropping her name as if to remind everyone that his star power still shines strong. But the truth is, while Paige is undoubtedly talented, mentioning her alongside Caitlin Clark wasn't about giving respect, it was a deflection tactic. Gino was avoiding admitting that he completely misjudged Clark's potential. And that's where things went wrong. Clark isn't just another skilled guard, she's in a league of her own, fearless, unapologetic, and unshaken by pressure. She's the kind of player who meets criticism head-on, never plays timid, and shines brightest under the spotlight. Every time Gino tries to lump her in with others, it only highlights how desperate he is to steer a story that's long out of his hands. When directly asked about Clark's impact on women's basketball, Gino downplayed it again, suggesting her rise was just part of the natural evolution of the sport, throwing out lines about having seen it all before and implying greatness is nothing new. But that's exactly the problem. For Gino, it might be business as usual, but Caitlin Clark is anything but ordinary. She's a once-in-a-generation talent who has attracted millions of new fans to the game. By refusing to fully acknowledge her, Gino doesn't just come off as out of touch, he looks bitter. He seems like someone clinging to past glories while the future of basketball unfolds right before him, led by the very player he once doubted. Gino's biggest misstep came when he tried to rope Clark into his ambitious new 3-on-3 league, a project backed by major investors and hyped as a game-changer set to launch in January. Clark flat-out rejected the idea, refusing to be part of anything associated with a man who publicly questioned her talent. That refusal sent shockwaves. Without Clark as the league's face and biggest star, the project lost its magnetism. Instead of being remembered as an innovative entrepreneur, Gino now looks like a former coach desperately trying to keep his venture afloat, while the one player who could have saved it refuses to join. Fans were quick to respond, flooding social media with jokes and harsh critiques. They mocked Gino for expecting Clark to sign on after dismissing her publicly, calling her fan base delusional and doubting her toughness to survive in the WNBA. But those words have come back to haunt him because Clark doesn't need his league, his approval, or to boost the image of someone who tried to diminish her. Instead of seeing her elevate his project to a cultural phenomenon, Gino is left with empty seats, fading hype, and a reputation that's unraveling faster than his league. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark continues to dominate, proving his insults were nothing more than desperate noise from a coach who lost the biggest bet of his career. In the end, Gino Auriemma thought he could control the narrative. But what actually happened is simple. He underestimated Caitlin Clark, and that mistake cost him everything. While he tries to rewrite history with half-hearted praise and excuses, Clark is busy rewriting basketball's future with every game, record, and inspired fan. The more Gino speaks, the clearer it becomes that he isn't just battling Clark's success, he's wrestling with his own regret. Instead of embracing the biggest star of this generation, he pushed her away, and now he's forced to watch from the sidelines as she elevates the sport to heights he no longer can reach. It's a powerful reminder. His era is fading, but hers is just getting started.